Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM and AM 630.
WMAL. 8:07 on the Morning Majority. The primary fight continues unabated. We're talking to Byron York of the Washington Examiner. He's been on the campaign trail all along the way. Good morning, Byron.
Good morning, Mary Catherine.
Hey, let's start with the basics today. On this Tuesday, how many primaries and how many delegates are we looking at?
Well, the big states are Minnesota, Colorado, and Missouri. The contest in Missouri is completely non-binding. They're going to have some sort of caucus later to determine the delegates, so not a huge number of delegates. But what is interesting is these are the first, after Iowa, which Rick Santorum belatedly won, these are the first contests in the Midwest. And Missouri, obviously an important swing state, Colorado, an important swing state. And so what we're hearing is that Rick Santorum seems to be doing pretty well, and especially in Minnesota right now.
What would it mean if he is able to pull out, say, one of those? Is Newt sunk for a while and Santorum's the new surging candidate?
Well, it's interesting. Gingrich is trying to retool his campaign after a pretty disastrous Florida and Nevada stretch, but does not seem to be a major player in this. Clearly, what it means is for all those Republicans, and there are a lot of them who don't want Mitt Romney to be the nominee, it means they have new hope for a while. It gives Santorum the momentum to get through this. We have a 3-week kind of dead period coming up. There's no primary or caucus from February 7th to the 28th. There's a big debate in Arizona on the 22nd. That will mean a lot. But it kind of scrambles the race, puts it up in the air again, and the Romney's inevitability has gone away for a while.
And the other thing that had happened, we know Romney's got a problem with some of the very conservative Republican voters, and we saw some of that weakness even in Florida, where he won handily. In the Panhandle, very conservative part of the state, he didn't do well. And now, if you got Santorum, who's surging, it would seem to me that if he's the new non-Rom, he could be positioned to go very well into those southern states where he might also do well.
Well, he could be, but you have to remember Gingrich is also counting on Georgia, his home state, Tennessee, and Oklahoma, so there will be a real battle there. I think what happens here, if Santorum does well, and there's polling to indicate that he might do well both in Minnesota and perhaps in Colorado and Missouri as well. If he does well, there'll be a lot of excitement. But the basic dynamic of the race, which is Mitt Romney on one side facing divided opposition on the other, that hasn't changed. As long as people are fighting each other for the right to be the anti-Romney, then Romney is doing better. He benefits from a divided opposition.
Newt Gingrich has made it pretty clear that he's not going to drop out of the race until the convention.
Right.
Santorum hasn't really gone on record as saying that, but do either one of those guys blink after Super Tuesday if their handwriting is on the wall? That's very difficult for them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's very common, especially after a defeat, for a candidate to come out and say, we're in this all the way.
Right.
But, I mean, Super Tuesday is really going to, I think, hold the fate for Gingrich and Santorum, because there really isn't any incentive for them to drop out, because they don't have to spend a whole lot of money in this period, this 3-week period, and they can do some organizing and kind of regroup. So there's no reason for them to pull out now. On the other hand, if they have a bad Super Tuesday, reality will stare them in the face, and all of these vows that they make on election night, these courageous vows, that was maybe just talk.
Now, it's believed that Romney still could have a tough time getting the total number of delegates. What is it, 1,100 and something that you
44.
need? 1,144 in order to win. But is it possible, mathematically possible, because we're expecting Romney to win a lot of states, is it mathematically possible for Gingrich or Santorum to actually get the needed number of delegates to win this thing, or do they have to go to a convention?
It's extremely hard to see. I mean, when you talk to Gingrich and Santorum people, beyond saying we're in this to win this thing, I think they're in it to deny Romney the 1,144, and then then it's a jump ball, and you see, well, what happens then? You have to remember, these guys do not have a specific, detailed plan of everything that's going to happen in the future. You can't do that. So their idea is to hang in there long enough, see what happens, see how many delegates they can accumulate, and what that means come convention time.
I'm kind of curious, what's resonating in Santorum's message right now, do you think?
I think that people have just been turned off by the intense negativity of the Romney-Gingrich fight. I think there's some evidence of that in the lower turnout we saw in Florida and Nevada. I mean, you know, you despite all this talk about how fired up Republicans are to defeat President Obama, what we've seen in those two contests were that turnout actually went down 44,000 to 32,000 in Nevada from 2008 to today, 1.9 million to 1.7 million in Florida from 2008 to today. People are, I think, have been turned off by this negativity, and Santorum just kind of keeps chugging along. And just as in Iowa, when the voters had considered everybody and rejected them for one reason or the other, they looked over and they said, well, hey, there's Rick. He's okay. He's been doing fine.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening right now.
While Newt's and Mitt Romney's negatives have gone up because they've been fighting each other, we suddenly see a little bit of uptick for Santorum. You see this head-to-head poll with Obama in which he comes out 1 point ahead, which I think is pretty unexpected.
That was amazing.
Beyond that, in polling and in favorables, do you see movement towards the idea that Santorum is a more plausible general election candidate?
Is it a real surge? Yeah.
I think this could be a statement. Now, this is just me theorizing here. This could be a statement from a lot of voters that they are not quite ready to see the race be over yet.
Yeah.
They want to air out more differences. They still have their concerns about Romney. Gingrich has been, shall we say, an imperfect challenger, and if in fact they do give Santorum some victories, they just want to see some more of this. I don't think it says anything definitive other than the race goes on for a while.
Mitt Romney on the campaign trail yesterday fighting the administration on the Affordable Care Act, which would force Catholic universities and hospitals to give birth control to employees. The White House, or I guess the Obama campaign, came out and called that the ultimate in hypocrisy from Romney because, as governor, I guess, he oversaw and protected the same things that is going to take place in the Affordable Care Act. Is that true, or are you surprised that Romney came out so hard against that, if it is true?
Well, I'll confess, I don't know that about the Romney Care bill. We do know, though, for example, in the issue of abortion in Romney Care, that existing state law in Massachusetts forced the health care program to pay part of abortions for low-income women. So my guess is you're probably going to see something like that. And the Romney people have always argued that, hey, wait a minute, that's the law that existed, put in there by the hugely Democratic legislature of Massachusetts, and the governor always opposed it.
All right, good to know. Byron, always great to have you on. Thanks very much.
Hey, guys, good to be here.
Byron York, Washington Examiner with us. He's the best.